Well, hello everyone. Hopefully this will be live to you. And welcome to another Sunday stream here on Makers Muse. I apologize for the slight late start. But a little bit of backstory. This is a C920 webcam, and I have another one. This was generously bought for me by Spike, who's a long-term supporter of Makers Muse. And I cannot get the two to talk to each other. I plug this in and all webcams die. And I don't know why. I have to restart the system to make it work. So what you'll be seeing here is another webcam, my very, very old Logitech cool, fun webcam with very low pixel count. And it's currently looking at a certain box. So today I was going to be doing stuff in Onshape, but this arrived on Friday, and yeah, I figure why not? Let's do a live unboxing, and I've got my Makers Muse minion today to help me out for questions, which is fantastic.
Hello.
So that we have the Lady Muse, Princess of Plastic, here to help us with any questions you might have. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So, yeah, it's not actually that cold. Sydney is probably around 6 degrees or something in the mornings, Celsius. We're just Australians, so we don't know what cold is. But yeah, so yeah, fire your questions through. We'll try to keep up, but as usual, it's all pretty crazy. Cool. We've got Anthony. You got Unlucky Creators. Awesome. Jacob, Sparky, good to see you. So move the mic a little bit closer. Apologise for any popping that may have occurred. So this would be the fourth i3 that I've received, other than the TiVo Tarantula, which I'm currently assembling. And this is the latest in the Wanhao lineup. So I have the original Wanhao i3, which some of you will know I didn't really like very much. It had quite a few issues. Then I had the Cocoon Create, which actually was quite good. The Cocoon Create fixed a lot of issues, and then there was the Wanhao i3 version 2.1 or whatever they called it, which fixed the issues that the Cocoon Create had. But this is the latest one, so this has got a full touch screen, everything like that. Pretty cool. And we'll crack him open.
Got a question?
Yep.
From Technology Nerd. What prints better, the Trinus or the Wanhao?
Okay, so the question is, what prints better, the Trinus or the Wanhao? That's not really comparable printers. The Trinus has a very small print volume. The Wanhao has a much larger print volume. I would say print quality is much the same, very much on par, but the size of the print volume is completely different. I think the Trinus is only 125 cube, whereas the Wanhao is 180 by 180 by 200 by 200 by 180. So it's substantially bigger. But I'd say they both print the same. There's nothing really too different there. Being brutal with this packaging. I think I need to sharpen my knife. There we go. Right. Well, first off the bat, you can see that. That's substantially improved packaging from what we used to get. The i3s used to come in polystyrene. This is much better. Much better. So to get it out, I'm assuming just reach down the side. That's... Yep, that'll do it.
Angus,
Yes.
who sent you that printer?
So this is from Wanhao directly, but it's been facilitated by Wanhao USA. So the guys at Wanhao saw that I liked the original, the Cocoon Create, which is the Wanhao i3 V2, and they got in touch and they thought, would you like to review the latest version of the i3, the Wanhao i3? And I said, yeah, that sounds awesome. So they sent me this, and they also sent me another certain Wanhao printer, which I will be looking at shortly, which is even bigger than this, and some of you may already know what that is. And that machine may or may not be in a giveaway. Hint, hint. This is the classic, here's a token amount of filament. Yeah, whatever. So, this is much better packaging than the original Wanhao used to come in. Way better. Another knife. Right. Alright, so let's get in there. Check that out. So we've got much better looking carriage for the extruder. Sheet metal as always. Very cool. So, not sure how it's meant to come out of the box. There's no quick start guide or anything like that. So I'm being very careful.
Is it biodegradable?
What is biodegradable?
I don't know.
It's probably PLA, so it would be biodegradable. If that's you mean the sample I just chucked away.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got 4 gig SD card. We've got tools. So nothing unusual there. Spool holder, spatula. Oh wow. Have a look at that. I've got to use a good webcam for that. That is the most vicious spatula I have ever seen. That's a lethal weapon. I'm going to put the cover back on that for protection. That's a nice touch. They've included a 0.4mm drill bit as well, because they've probably caught on to the fact that nozzles do clog after a while. And yeah, there's a nice little 0.4mm drill bit. A nice touch. Alright, couple of spares, Allen keys, spare PTFE tube for the extruder. Yeah, nothing too unusual.
Hey Angus,
Yes.
what is your favourite type of plastic to print with?
To print with, it depends on the printer. So the question is, what's my favorite type of plastic? I would say I like printing with PLA for ease of use, but I do prefer printing with ABS in a machine that can handle ABS because the parts are way stronger. So Up Mini for years printing in ABS beautifully. Upbox similarly prints in ABS beautifully. But if your machine can't handle it, it's not going to be a fun experience. So I do like PLA for some test prints, quick things. But yeah, I prefer ABS to be honest, which is a bit of an unusual answer for most of you to understand. But if your machine can print ABS, it's just a better plastic. It's just stronger. You can weld it together easily with acetone. You can vapor smooth it. All sorts of good things. So there is no instructions at all on how to get this out of the box. So,
Angus?
yes.
Just a question. A couple of people have asked, have you tried the Lulzbot 3D printer? Or if you haven't, what are your thoughts on it?
Okay, so that's a good question, and I do have a good answer for that. So the question is, have I tried the Lulzbot 3D printers? So the Taz 6 probably would be the one you're thinking of, or the Lulzbot Mini. No, I haven't. And it's not because I don't think they're good printers. It's because the Lulzbot company is very, very proudly based in the States, and they are manufactured in the States. And where I am in Australia, doesn't make any financial sense for them to send me a 3D printer to review. That it's better off for them to send it to someone like Joel, the 3D printing nerd. And I have come across some locally through some resellers. They're good machines. I have nothing against them. I would love to test one out. But in terms of other machines that I've got my hands on, I'm not going to be trying to get hold of one, I suppose. But yeah, definitely follow Joel's experience with his Mini because he liked it so much they let him keep it. And the Taz 6, which had issues, but apparently they've fixed those issues. And apparently they're selling like hotcakes.
Angus?
Yes.
A couple of people are asking,
Red
how
Bull.
is the YOLO printer going?
So, the YOLO printer is still in works. Again, it's just a time thing. For those who don't know, I've actually been moving out for the last 2 weeks. So, I don't live here anymore. I live elsewhere. So, I've been pretty busy. But it is going to happen. Definitely, I have all the parts. It's just about sitting down with some time, a couple of Red Bulls, and some on-shape time, and making it happen. Same with the 404 Villain. That is 100% going to happen. Don't worry about that. But today, it's all about just getting this printer out because I've got heaps of printers to get through.
Okay, can I just ask you
One more question before I'm holding this like awkwardly.
Okay, so a couple of people have asked, basically, how is the Trinus Kickstarter? Has there been any backlash against it? So, what are your thoughts on the Trinus Kickstarter so far?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So, just going to sit down quickly. So, with the Trinus Kickstarter project, the updates have been coming through really quickly. And I didn't back the project, but I have lots of friends who have, and they're forwarding me through emails of updates. So they've changed the extruded design. They've improved that. They are working towards getting the manufacturing up. From what I understand, they're absolutely nose to the grindstone, working hard to get their machine out to backers by the delivery date because they did exceed their goal humongously. So yeah, I mean, they are improving it. The new design has a different nozzle design. It's a chrome plated nozzle. It's not hardened, but it is chrome plated. So that will help a little bit. And yeah, from what I understand, they are taking on backers' comments and criticisms and improving the product, which is exactly what Kickstarter should be about. So yeah, I may end up getting a test on like a pre-production of that one just to test out and show you guys. But for now, yeah, I believe they're doing pretty well. So, yeah, okay, to move on, to get through this in time, because we only have an hour. First thing I've noticed, which is awesome, check that out. No longer is this constrained to the printer via a awkward, fragile umbilical cord. It's separate. It's its own unit, which is awesome. And that's because they've included, you can see it there, I'll just show it here. That's right. The screen and power supply and everything is in one thing. It's under the entire axis. It's under the bed. So that's awesome. So this definitely feels like a good machine already. So let's pop that out. And then we'll just have the gantry. So that's this thing here. There we go. So there's only two pieces. There's no awkward umbilical cord. That's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with that. Seems like a worthy successor already. Right, we've got a new ribbon cable. There, new ribbon cable for the extruder assembly, which is good. Right, now the question is, how does it assemble? So it's got a few zip ties I need to get rid of. But nothing too unusual. Yeah, alright, let's get some scissors to cut that. It doesn't really stand up though. Kind of stands up. That's a thick zip tie. It's the kind of zip tie that you'd use to kind of wrap around someone's wrists. Questions?
Yeah. So Abdullah asks, what are your thoughts on the Folgertech FT5?
I'm not hugely familiar with it, but I believe if Anthony's in the chat still, he may be able to assist with that question. So the Folgertech machines are really good low-cost machines. Like with any low-cost printer, you may be losing a bit of quality control, you might be losing a bit of frame construction, rigidity, that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know too much about them. But if Anthony's around, he can probably help. Right, I'm just trying to figure out how this goes. So I assume... Nope. So it's like the original Wanhao i3s where it sort of slides into place, but I'm just trying to figure out how. It seems like it's too large. Maybe from the back. Keep in mind, I've never seen this printer ever before in an unassembled state. So it's not going to fit in there. It'll fit in an angle though. I do need to move this upwards. Nope, it's not going to budge. Definitely no instruction in the box. I could look online, but not during a stream.
Did you want to look up something?
Yeah, I'm going to look it up quickly.
What? I'll need to look up.
No, I'll look it up this time.
Alright.
Alright. Wanhao i3 Pro assembly manual. Yeah, there's some wires sticking out the side on the back, so I don't think it'll go from the back in. I think it needs to go from one direction in.
Sparkyface says raise the extruder to give more room to angle it in.
I just did try that. It doesn't seem to want to move, but I might force it a bit harder.
Quick question, have you ever gotten a dead on arrival printer?
Oh yes, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna push this up by brute force. Don't hate me for it. So yeah, the question is, have I ever gotten a dead on arrival printer? Yes, I have. So when I used to work at a 3D printing studio, we would sell printers and we'd sell them. We'd basically order them in on demand. And yeah, we got a couple of FlashForge Dreamers once that the entire batch had issues, and that just a disaster because what do you do for a customer when you've been waiting? Should we pull this up? I really can't move that. When you've been waiting months for a machine to show up, and then it shows up broken, like that's just rubbish. So the closest I've had for the channel would be the China's coming with a broken homing switch. So the China's came with a broken homing switch on the Z-axis. That's the closest I've come to a machine that's broken, but it does happen quite a bit actually, and it's usually couriers that break them. They'll damage things. The up box I've got damaged by couriers. That's why I've got it. It's not saleable. But it's why I'm against people. I advise people not to buy printers direct from China because they're very often broken in transit. Alright, let's see how this goes. Ah, my fingers. Not the easiest machine to assemble, even though it looks so simple. I don't understand. Why is... It's like it's too tight. It's like it's way too tight. It's like the distance between that isn't enough to clear the distance between those areas. Very, very strange.
Hey Angus?
Yes.
Just when you're talking to the machine, it's just harder for them to hear.
Oh yeah, no worries. I need a lapel mic, but I don't have one that plugs into the computer. So I'll try to talk directly into this mic. Try to have it closer. But yeah, don't know why it's not working. I'll give it one more shot. I'll be a little bit more violent. Don't hate me for it.
Angus? Mm-hmm. Do you think of reviewing the PrintBot Simple V2 when it comes out?
Just a second. Just don't.
You need some help?
No, that's all right. No, that's not going in. Right. Right, back to the drawing board. I'm going to just look up why this is not going in, because that's disastrous. So it's not sliding in. The gap's too tight. It's like got another millimeter or two that it needs to clear.
Catbook says you have to do it at an angle. That's what the support said to him.
Right. Yeah, I just did try at an angle, and it still didn't go in. I will have a quick look. But yeah, about the printer bots. Again, I wouldn't mind wouldn't mind helping. Wouldn't mind reviewing them, but they're again an American company. I'm unlikely to get any to review. Right, Wanhao USA. Oh, the bar. Can I actually loosen that? I can try loosening that. That's not a bad idea. Hammer time. It's always something. It's always something with my streams. I did not expect this though.
Spoke April says Angus is making me worried for the printer.
Yeah. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually remove the bottom bar. Then I will reattach it once it's in place and see how that goes.
Okay, just let me know when I can bang you some questions. Have you got a moment to spare?
Yep. I have moments. I have my moments. Alright, bottom bar removed. Oh, lost the camera.
Oh, back camera.
It's gone for a magical trip. Sorry about that. Are you okay? Yes, that'll do. Alright, I think that did it. Maybe. Yes. Whoever said remove the bottom bar or loosen the bottom bar, you are a champion.
That was Luke Petit, I think.
Thank you for that.
And also a couple of them, I think.
A couple of them. Alright, well, when you buy the Wanhao i3 Pro, don't do what Donnie Angus does and try to just shove it on with the bar in place. Take the bottom bar off. Alright, we got our screws.
That's actually an interesting question, at least for me.
Yeah.
Do you have trouble printing with ABS in winter while we're having such a cold ambient temperature?
Yes. So, let me bring the mic closer. So, about printing ABS in winter, yes, absolutely. It's much more difficult if your ambient temperature is too low. I used to put my 3D printers in boxes, cardboard boxes. So, keep the boxes your printer comes with. And in winter, if you're trying to print ABS, especially with something like an Up+2 where it's an open design, stick it in a cardboard box and close the lid, blast it with a hot air gun, and you'll get better prints. Even in summer, if you're trying to get prints that are warping, try that. And it'll make the chamber, it'll make like an ambient heated chamber, which just keeps it much warmer and keeps it more reliable. Trust me, it works really well. Because otherwise, yeah, you'll get huge issues with printing ABS in winter, definitely. Right, I'm gonna have to put this in place, which is gonna be a little bit tedious.
Okay, seems to be you have a quiet moment now. Do you want to answer a question or are you concentrating?
I'm just trying to get this thing in, but you can, if you like.
Lube it up, baby.
Is that the question?
No, that's me. The question though is, could you quickly recap the changes to the new model of Wanhao? Like, you can keep it simple if it's too complicated.
Yeah, so the changes you'll notice at the front, or you might not notice with the webcam in its current position, is they've removed the umbilical cord power box. It's now connected The power supply and everything's actually in the bottom of the printer, and the touchscreen is a new addition, and it's at the front of the printer. So they've made it all into one concise unit. And once again, Wanhao has succeeded in providing annoyingly too short Allen keys to assemble its own machine, because you cannot rotate them enough. I'll show you here. The camera goes in here and hits the frame. You can't keep turning. It's kind of frustrating. Right, that's gone on the floor now. Another one here. Right, I can answer some more questions if you like. Just while I'm doing these 4 screws, which will probably take another hour.
Yeah, I'll just ask this one from Catwalk. What are your thoughts on the new M3D Plus?
That would be the new Micro. I don't like them. So another bit of backstory. M3D, very popular low-cost printers. I got in touch with them because a lot of people asked me about my opinion on the original M3D, and I said, hey guys, do you want me to do a review? I'm happy to do like a loaner unit. You lend it to me, I'll test it, do a review. And they said, no, we don't do that. We can give you a $50 discount, and that's it, basically. So, from what I understand, the original M3D is quite fragile. It does work, but it's not the best. The M3D Plus just looks like a bigger version of the same fragile system. So I'm not exactly sure I can recommend it, unfortunately.
Anthony asks, have you ever printed something that always fails, like no matter what printer and settings you have?
Yes. So the question is, have I ever printed anything that always fails? When I was printing on demand at a studio, yes, all the time. We'd get architectural files, specifically very thin lattice structures where they'd be like, oh, we need it by tomorrow and we don't have time to SLS it. No matter what we did, sometimes, again, this is where my boss would say yes regardless. He was a bit of a yes man. So I'd be trying to print this file, I'd thicken it up, I'd try to print again. No matter what I did, they'd fail. So usually they'd be very complicated lattice structures or very thin walls when we're trying to print them on an ABS printer, because we had to acetone weld them together in sections. No matter what we did, we'd get failures. And that's just because the files weren't designed for printing. They were just too thin, too fragile, too many details that needed support. Just forget it. That's why I don't print on demand anymore. It's just not worth the trouble. People who have printers understand what is printable. People who don't tend to, especially if they're trying to get them quickly, will often have files that have errors, and they don't understand what goes into making a very good printable file. And I can't get this last screw in.
What's the problem?
I'm not sure. It seems to be overly tight. Alright, let's have a look here.
Seawoods asks, do you ever get skipping or bad jokes using the fabricator menu?
So the question's about skipping, so losing steps on the Fabricator Mini. No, I haven't actually. I always run quite slowly, like 30 millimeters a second, or maybe 40 on the Fab Mini. I don't really run faster than that, and I've never had an issue. So you might be running too fast, or you might have turned your current too low. So I know there's a big issue with the Fabricator Minis when they come from the factory. The current's too high, so they get too hot. But after turning them down too much, you lose a lot of torque.
Another question?
Yep.
Okay, Colin asks, are there any tips for setting up supports in Simplify 3D? I keep getting slices that have supports situated in mid-air.
That's strange. So you got supports that are in mid-air. That means they're trying to support something that isn't there. You might have an error in your file. Yeah, I can't really comment without seeing it, unfortunately. It sounds like there's errors in your file if it's trying to do stuff that supports stuff that's not there.
Matt says that for him to use the support tool, so to generate them automatically, and then you can remove support that is rubbish.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be making support in mid-air. That means it's trying to support something that's not there, which is a bit strange. Right, so almost got these last ones in. The Allen key is just too short. You can't do a full rotation. You can only do about half rotation before having to pull it out again. That's why it's so tedious. Alright, I'll do. So, put our spares away. Good. Okay. So, what we've got here, if I can show you properly, is the Wanhao i3 Pro. So, it's got the screen in front, touch screen there. And it's got the new extruder design with no rubbing. There is no rubbing anymore. It doesn't collide. You see there? The felt doesn't touch anything. It's finally, because the biggest issue with the previous Wanhao i3s is they would rub there, which was awful. Alright, so we've got our cable, which runs through here. And we've got our various stepper motors, which are luckily marked according to where they go. So we've got obviously C into C, A and B. So very easy to wire them up. Put them into where they need to go.
Just a short quiz.
Yep.
Projector Gaming asks, when's the next collab with Joel?
I don't know. Similarly to me, Joel's been extremely busy. So, yeah, I mean, we've been talking about some stuff about making different files, that sort of thing. He likes doing, like, his whole Gmax thing where he'll make something bigger. So he did that recently with Chaos Cortex Slime Rancher models, which looked awesome. But, yeah, there's nothing really planned at the moment, but I'm sure we'll do something. Alright, and the big improvement of the extruder is this ribbon cable. So, that's much improved over awkward soldered cables running all the way through the machine, which is awesome. Question is, which is the best path for it to take? So it plugs into the side here. So run it across there, outside the machine. Looks good to me.
Angus?
Yep.
Are you familiar with a guy called Technology Nerd?
Vaguely. What's the question about?
He's just plugging one to see if you can watch his stream.
Maybe. Right. So we got everything plugged in nicely. Double check. Yep. Always make sure your limit switches are plugged in as well. It's always a good thing to check. So we've got my limit here. That's good. Got my Z limit and X. X is plugged in. Good. All right. Power cable. So. So much stuff in the way.
Okay. Easy question. Have you ever tried a 3mm machine?
Yes. So the question is, have I ever tried a machine with 3mm filament or 2.85? That would be the Mancati So I used to use the Mancati EX, and it was a horrible, horrible machine. So it was a Chinese clone of the Ultimaker, essentially, same idea. Designed with zero maintainability in mind. You couldn't take apart the extruder without disassembling the entire top of the machine. And its print quality was rubbish. And it weighed a lot, but it wasn't very rigid. So, yeah, that would have been my experience. But that doesn't mean all 3mm machines are crap. I mean, the Ultimaker is amazing. I've never used one myself, but I hear everything good about them all the time. And the Lolsbot also used 3mm, or 2.85. But my only experience, sadly, was with the Mancati. Right, let's go find a spare PowerPoint. Down here.
Okay, Luke says you move the Z-axis. Make sure you level it again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll home it first, and then I'll turn him off and level the Z-axis. But for now, let's just turn it on, see what happens.
And then Lucky Creators asks, what happened to the turret you were going to make?
The what?
The turret.
Yeah, that kind of faded into obscurity. Right, I'm assuming there's an initialize button somewhere.
What is the best resolution you have ever printed? That's from me.
I would say the best resolution would have been 50 microns. I haven't gone below that. Does anyone know how to turn it on? The power switch is not doing anything. So usually they just power on, but I'm not getting any life.
Shahil Merchant asks, what happened to the printer made out of the cheap stuff from eBay? Or alternatively, are you still planning to do that?
Yeah. So regarding the cheap stuff out of eBay printer, that's going to be the 404 Villain, which I am definitely still working on. I am not getting any life out of this printer. Just going to make sure I have the SD card in. That may be why.
All that work in a dead power supply from Project King.
Quite possibly. Oh, that is another plus. It's now using larger normal SD cards instead of annoying micro SD.
Once again, we get the hammer solution.
Yeah. It may well be down to that.
Try to plug it out in it again. Is the power board on?
Yep. I'm hearing a spark.
Okay, Russ Standard asks, where can you get lead screws and ball screws in Australia?
Okay, so the question's about lead screws and ball screws in Australia. Go over to eBay. There's a guy called the CNC and Cupcake World, or Cupcake and CNC World, and he sells everything to do with ball screws and stuff. And he's in Australia. He's in Victoria, actually. Nice guy. I'm suspecting they've shipped it to me with the power supply in US mode at 120 volts. Yeah.
Have you checked the board connections?
It's making a spark. I can hear it make a spark. So that's
Cat says make sure you select the correct main power switch and power supply.
that's exactly right. The problem is there's no accessible way to get to that except by opening up the bottom of it.
So do you think it's a problem on this end or from their end?
I think their end. It says 110 to 220 volts AC. Maybe it might be auto switching. There is a little button on the side, but it looks more like a reset button. So I'll just try holding that down for a while. Off to a fantastic start. No, she's dead. She is dead. How weird.
Perhaps open it up again?
Yeah.
Need more power. Use a larger firecracker.
Alright, well, it's gonna...
It says also wait a little longer after turn on.
Wait longer?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And rather fellows say push it. Push it real good.
Okay. I'm just gonna leave it with the power on for a little while and see what happens. Because I'm gonna be really upset if this is dead, because then, yeah, it would be the first ever completely dead on arrival printer I've ever gotten.
Okay. Another unrelated note. Michelle Creel asks, can you ask him his thoughts on the Wanhao Duplicator 5S, the large one, not the mini?
Yep, so about the Wanhao Duplicator 5S. It's a fairly older Wanhao. Oh no, the 5 was the older, the 5S is the newer one. I don't know, I don't have any experience with it directly, but as far as I understand, it's an open frame. I don't know if it has a heated bed. If it doesn't have a heated bed, I wouldn't bother with it, to be honest. Yeah, there is no instructions, just so you know.
I love Spectacle's comment. Rest in peace, Wanhao. We hardly knew you. May you resurrect before Angus goes nuts.
Yep. This is like the worst ever. Duplicator i3 Pro. I don't know what's the problem. Shop. 3D printers. I'm just looking on the Wanhao website to see if... Oh, it's the Plus, not the Pro. My mistake. So it's the Wanhao Duplicator i3 Plus. Like everything else is called Plus. Touch screen. SD holder.
An interesting question. I don't think there is really an answer for it. Randall Lassini asks, what do you think the Brexit would do for prices?
Alright, I'm going to crack them open. Yeah, I think for prices, we're all doomed, basically. Australian dollar is already pretty low. I think it's going to continue getting lower.
I think only time will be able to tell, especially when trading goes up again.
Yeah. Interesting to see what happens, but I don't know if it's the best thing that has ever happened to the world. Power.
Here's a fun question. Hunter Dean asks, how do you deal with annoying friends that ask you to print ridiculous things? I just had a buddy ask me to print him an Xbox One. He knows I can't, but he thinks it's funny. So just think of all the times I've asked you to print me ridiculous things. How does that make you feel?
You just say no repeatedly. Or you start charging. So you say, yeah, I'm happy to, and it will cost you this much. And then that's the answer.
Okay, so Luke Hazelgrove says, Common Angus, it's so likely to be the 110 versus T20 V switch. Get the bottom panel off and switch it over.
Yep, that's what I'm doing now.
Good.
That's what I'm on. It is very much likely to be that. And yeah, this is classic China.
Angus, what would you do if the print caught on fire?
Throw it out the window.
Okay.
If it caught on fire.
says turn it upside down. Maybe you got one with the American voltage settings.
Yeah, that's the voltage settings. That's what I'm checking. Right. Done. Right. Well, if you want to see inside it, there you go. The question is, where's the switch? So we've got. Oh yeah. So it's there. So you can't actually access it from the outside. You have to actually go right in.
So just to recap on your thoughts on beer or coffee-based filaments.
What about them?
What do you think about them? Because I remember you showing me the coffee one, and it was very disappointingly not coffee-like.
Yes. Just before. You know what, guys? It's on 240 volts. It's on 230 volts. So it's not the switch. That's a concern. Oh. But that's what it is. Cast your eyes there. They even hot glued it. How about that? So, that would be the plug that's pulled out. Yep. So, I'm just going to force that back in. So, during assembly, they must have yanked it pretty hard. And that should be good. But I'm going to just put a couple of screws back in just to make sure.
You know, you can get me to the one that's steady. You don't have to balance it.
Okay, come hold it for me. Minion to the rescue.
Okay. Just like that?
Yep.
There, isn't that much better?
Yes. Much easier.
Press down?
Yeah. Right, I'll do it now.
Okay.
Alright. Right, back we go. Right, so, yes, that was the main power switch, the power plug internally which had been pulled out. It's doing something! It's doing something! See? It's got a little... It's alive! I'll just lower this so you can see it easier. Right. Yes. Alright, so there we go. It's alive. For those who missed it, it was the internal main power distribution plug that had been yanked out, and they hot glued it, but the hot glue had been pulled out as well, which is awesome. So, yeah, let's have a look. So we've got system, tool, print, and it's a complete touch screen. So let's go. Let's try homing. See if I got my homing switches right. So I will have to re-level the Z because I did yank it around, but that's okay. We're just testing it for now. They're all talking about your hand.
Yeah, it's glorious, isn't it?
It's a glorious hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like Charlie Brown's adults, always off screen, and when speaking can't be understood properly.
No, we will mic her up. I need to work out a system where I can have more than one high definition webcam and more than one microphone. But at the moment, it's not really possible with this computer. So that works. You can change PID settings. That's pretty handy. Back, tools, move.
Duplicate.
Well, that just went down into the bed, so that's not good.
Duplicate says better check all the connectors when you have time.
Yeah, good idea. So I'm going to check all those. I don't know if you saw that. I just pressed the negative Z-axis to test it because some machines like the M150 don't take into account the homing switches after you home. So you can negatively push it into the bed. That's the same with this. But the Cocoon Create doesn't let you do that. So it's a setting in firmware which I need to turn on. That's okay because the Z wasn't level anyway. Yeah, so don't push it backwards after homing. Cool. Let's see if it heats up. Can you silence the beeps? Maybe. No, by the looks of it, you can't silence the beeps. So let me try warming it up and see if it can extrude. So, tools, preheat, PLA. Cool. Yeah, so adjustable Z axis switch. Let me have a look for you. Yes, so it's got 4 different screw holes which are all joined together, and you'll be able to adjust them. Well, the sound's working fine, Nige, so it might just be you. Everyone else seems to be hearing it fine, unfortunately.
Okay, got a question?
Yep.
Which printer have you had a lot of high expectations for, but ended up being a huge letdown when you got it and started using it?
So the question is about which printer have I had high expectations for, but then had a huge letdown after using it. That would have to be the first, which I just reviewed. I had huge expectations for that, and it just didn't deliver. And I just couldn't. I just couldn't understand why the price was so high for the quality of the prints that I was getting off it. And it looked like an amazing machine, but in terms of getting good prints at that price, it just didn't deliver. So that was a bit of a letdown. Yeah, that's probably the biggest one, I'd say. I haven't really come across a machine so far that's just been really, just doesn't function. But that's probably the closest I've come to being disappointed from a 3D printer. I'm just going to get some sample PLA. Not the one I threw across the room. I'll get some other PLA. eSun. This is eSun Purple. Purple PLA. Right. Yeah, so Chuck was asking about the screen, if it's hard to read. I can read it from here, so that's a bit of an awkward angle, and it seems to work. So the readability of it is much better than the other Wanhao screens, where you've got quite a very low viewing angle, and you can't read it beyond that. It seems to be working pretty well. So the bed's already at 50, and the extruder's just about to hit 185. So let's run some plastic through it.
Okay, so the question is, has it ever happened to you where the model's looking good in the slices? However, but when they print the mirror side on the x-axis instead, or the y-axis?
That's strange. No. So the question, from what I understand, was, have I ever printed a model where it looks good in the slicer, but then it prints with the mirror, in mirror? It sounds like you've got your your x-axis motor wired backwards, if that's happening. So if your print's coming out in a mirror, then it means, depends which way it's mirrored, but it means when your x or y axis is rotating the wrong way. So it thinks it's going, clockwise, but it's actually going counterclockwise. You can correct that by flipping 2 wires so 2 wires of one of the coils in your stepper motor. So identify which of the coils by finding which has the low resistance, and then flipping them. Obviously when it's all turned off. Don't do it when it's on. and that will reverse the direction of that stepper, and it should fix that problem if it's a hardware problem. But if it's not a hardware problem, if it's a software problem, I don't know if I can help you.
Oh my god, the questions are going up so fast.
Yeah, we can't answer all of them. I am struggling trying to find the extrude button. It's not under the move, which it would be normally on the Wanhao A3s. There's no move extruder option, so it may be... Home.
Someone asks where the spool holder is.
I haven't assembled the spool holder yet. It's in the box. So this is the spool holder, and it's going to go right there on top of it. Well, you can't see it, but on top. I haven't put it on yet. Although I'm probably not going to run it with it on top of the machines, because I've noticed with the i3s, if you run with a spool on top, especially a kilo roll, it's not good enough. It adds too much weight to the entire gantry, so you get wobble, and it amplifies that because it adds lots of mass to it. So I'm probably going to put it on the side and run it in, something like that.
Question. Some people have asked us what are your thoughts on the Kirimoto cam in Onshape. Have you messed around with that yet?
No, I haven't actually. So I think the question was about cam and Onshape. I haven't played with any of the plugins in Onshape yet. There is rendering plugins, FEA plugins, and cam plugins. I haven't played with any of them as yet. There's a slicer as well, actually, apparently. I cannot locate where an automatic extrude option is. It doesn't seem to have one, and I may be wrong, but so far I can't see it. Under Tools, there is only preheat and move axes, but there isn't any option to move the extruder axis.
Here's a fun question.
Yeah.
What was your most favourite print that you ever printed?
Don't know if I have a favourite print. So the question is, what is my most favourite print? What's your most favourite print?
Deathclaw!
Yeah, the Deathclaw was pretty good. So I did the Fallout 4 Deathclaw. I ended up giving it to Tim at Frontier 3D in Perth.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me.
So yeah, I might print another one, but that was a good one. Oh, Pano, well, good to see you, Pano. If you have to leave, that's all good. Yeah, so I am putting it through manually, but I would have liked to have an automatic feed, because this is actually really important. If you want to upgrade to a Flexion extruder, you cannot push filament through manually through the Flexion. You have to use an automatic feed, and I cannot locate the automatic feed in this. But that's okay. We're just going to go... I'm going to try leveling it and see if I can get a print going. So let's see how that goes.
Yeah, Sam suggests printing a coin or a swatch to start off with.
Yeah.
Nima asks, what is the cheapest printer you have ever used?
Cheapest printer I've ever used would probably have been the Fabricator Mini, to be honest. So that's $178 US plus shipping. And it works pretty well. It does what it needs to do. Alright.
Yeah, the Codsworth figure was a good print.
That's true.
Love God says you need a third mini to read the instructions for you.
There is no instructions. Does not come with any instructions. No, that's close enough. That was a pretty quick and dirty leveling. Please don't hate me for it. But I don't have time to do a proper one. Okay, so I'm going to fire up Simplify 3D, and I'm going to load up my coin. I guess that's a good quick print. Could you please find a spot for this in the back? There may be a
Where?
there may be a cord that's got an extension, like an extension USB.
Okay, bye, laptop.
Have a look.
What is it?
There might be a plug that's like ends in a USB. Maybe.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Okay, don't worry about it. I'll just print the OK hand. There's no more ports left on the computer because I've got the 4G dongle, I've got the cameras, everything. There's no spare port for the SD card reader. So we'll have to print what's on the SD card for now. Cool. Alright, so it's the OK hand. So the Wanhao thing is the everything's okay hand. So we'll see how that goes.
Have you ever tried any food-based printing, like pancake printers, chocolate printers, candy printers, anything along there? And does your cake printer attempt count?
So yeah, the question is about food printing. That's a great topic. So yes, I did make a cake printer a few years ago. It wasn't really a cake printer, it was an icing printer. So the idea is it would print icing onto existing cakes. It did function. It does kind of count. It was an experiment, but that's how most of it goes. Most of these cake and food printers are experiments. I haven't done anything more on it since though. It's a big issue on making it food safe. Let me just make sure this is working. Yeah. It's a little bit close. I've got the bed level springs tightened all the way they can go and it's still too close. So I think I might need to adjust my Z-axis limits a little bit higher. But it's printing. It's a bit too close, but it's printing. Shival's saying print beds make great hand warmers. They really do. They're nice and warm.
Okay, so 3D print everything. Ask what's the most you spent on a printer and it was still very rubbish.
Luckily, because of this job, I don't really have to spend money on printers anymore. But yeah, I guess I haven't because I always, when I did buy stuff, like when I bought the Up Minis, I researched everything to do with them. Like I researched the original Ups, the Up Plus 2s, all that sort of stuff. So I knew I was going to get a machine that was going to deliver, and I tested other people's printers before buying one. I've never had to spend my own money on a printer and then find out it was rubbish because that would just be careless of me. There's no way I would drop a few $1,000 on a printer that I haven't personally used for a while. Like, not happening. I'd visit a makerspace and I'd test theirs, or I'd visit a friend, or I'd research stuff. I'd go on the 3D printing group on Facebook and find out. But I'd never actually test it. I'd never actually buy a printer without testing it. So I luckily haven't gone through that myself. Yeah. And then just a quick question about the TiVo Tarantula. It's currently being assembled over in the corner over there, and it will be hopefully done by the end of the week. I've already sunk about 10 hours into it, so it just needs to be wired at this point, basically.
Okay. Just a general question from Blue Spy. What printers do you have in mind for review? So what is your most recent printers that you're going to review?
Good question. So I've just done the Be the First Plus. As you would have seen, I just uploaded that last night. I've got the M150 from Hobby King lined up for the next review. And then I've got the TiVo Tarantula. And then from there, I still have the Rigibot 2, which I need to get going. I have had issues with firmware. I need to actually make my own custom firmware at this stage. The firmware I've tried just doesn't work very well. And beyond that, I have the Wanhao i3 Plus, which you can see right here. And finally, there's the Wanhao Duplicator 6, which is somewhere hidden. And that's going to be an interesting one because it's almost the same as the Zortrax M200 at a fraction of the price. So that's a big printer. Yeah. And there's another one coming as well, actually, which I can't say what it is, but it's going to be pretty cool. And if you're talking about the Monoprice Select Mini, similar to that. So that's going to be pretty interesting.
Okay, Elemental Smith asks, I have about $300. Should I buy a Fab Mini or save up for a more expensive printer?
Depends what currency you've got $300 in. If you've got $300 Australian, that's basically the price of a Fabricator Mini. In which case I'd say just buy it, because it's better to have a printer now than be waiting for years for a bigger printer. But if it's 300 US, you're almost got enough for a Wanhao i3 or a TiVo Tarantula, which is a kit. Again, I'm assembling mine. They will give you a bigger printer with more options. And that way you can print bigger things. But if it's $300 Australian, then you pretty much all you can afford right now is the Fabricator Mini. In which case, I'd say get it, because it's a good little machine and you can start printing. And Chuck's asking what type of TiVo. It is the dual extruder TiVo with the larger bed, so it's the full featured one. They did send it with the single extruder as well, but I'm going to try the dual, which actually ironically makes it the first dual head 3D printer I've actually ever tested. Because, I've ever owned. I've tested others, but I've never owned a dual head 3D printer before, and ironically it's the cheapest kit printer that is the first to actually have a dual head. It is Bowden dual though, so I'm not sure how well that's going to work. Yeah, just about the B the first. I mean, I got told last night that someone was saying they can import their own G-code into the Bsoft software, which I didn't work out how to do. If that is the case, then you could print from other slices on the B printer, but that's still a workaround, and it's still not okay for that price point at all. Yeah, so it seems to be printing okay. It's doing the old hand. Yeah, I can't figure out how you can print G-code from Bsoft. I'll look into it later, but I don't think you can on the Be the First Plus.
That's an interesting one.
Yes.
This is not so much 3D printed related, but more for your title, just in a discussion with someone, and sort of be good for your input. What's the difference between an industrial designer and an engineer?
That's a good question. So the question is, what's the difference between an industrial designer and an engineer? And there is huge differences, and differences I didn't really know existed before I did my degree. So a bit of backstory, I got into engineering and I decided not to do it. I decided to do industrial design instead. So as an engineer, you have to do the figures. You need to prove that something is safe, will reach minimum guidelines, and will reach safety specifications through making the right FEA calculations and that sort of thing. As an industrial designer, you're responsible for the creative side of bringing an idea to life. So an engineer will not be approached by a client to design a new product. Like for example, okay, Logitech, the G920. This has been designed by an industrial designer. But once the design was completed, it's been handed over to engineers to make it manufacturable. So there's different strains of industrial designers and different strains of engineers. There is engineers that work on automotive industry, aerospace. There's also engineers that work in, for example, making plastic molding, so making the tooling possible to make these products. But it's not their job to design the form of it. It's an industrial designer's job to do that. So I did industrial design because I view it as cheating engineering. I come up with the cool ideas that look awesome and make them in prototypes, and then someone else has to make them function using the hardcore maths and analysis behind it. That's how I do it. That's how I view it. Neither field is better than the other, by all means. I mean, an engineer will probably be paid more. An engineering degree is harder in my eyes than an industrial design degree. You need a bit of sketching skills for it to be an industrial designer. I don't really have any, but they both use SolidWorks or CAD programs to come up with concepts. That by all means. But yeah, that's how I view the differences. So a lot of my friends did engineering. I did industrial design. I'm glad I did industrial design because it means I got into this field. But an engineer would probably be better at making a 3D printer, for example, than me, whereas I'm better at coming up with crazy concepts. Yeah. And yes, absolutely. Dan's saying product designers often have no idea how something will be manufactured. Absolutely true. Most industrial designers or product designers have no clue how things are manufactured. They don't understand what draft angles are. They don't understand what uniform wall thicknesses are. They don't understand what flow paths are. If you mention any of that, they go. So by being more interested in both, I was sort of able to view products from how they would be manufactured down the line, which helped me out a lot in some of my first jobs, I guess. But yeah, you're right. A lot of them don't understand how things are manufactured. They think you can make these crazy things out of impossible materials that would be really cheap to do. But I actually view it more practically. So the print's doing pretty well, actually. I'm pretty happy with this. It's just pulling it off the spool. I don't have the spool holder in place yet. It seems to be working okay.
Does 3D printing studios in Perth still exist?
No. So Bryce is asking, does 3D printing studios in Perth still exist? I used to work there for 2 years, and we were in Fremantle. It was good fun, and that's, I was doing my product design workflow there, so pretty on demand, also designing on demand. And towards the end of last year in October, my boss wanted to get out of the business, and he was prepared to hand over the business to me. I said, well, no, thank you. I'm not interested in taking it. I would rather go my own way, to which the business wrapped up. And Tim, over at Frontier 3D, he's in Willerton, bought the assets of 3D Printing Studios. So Tim is a fantastic guy. If you are in Perth, go to Willerton and chat to Tim. He picks up what we used to do. But yeah, I was like, I don't want to own these assets. I don't want to have a SolidWorks copy and be paying it off. I want to just go my own way. And it's ironic now that I have far more machinery at my disposal than I did when I was working at 3D Printing Studios in Perth.
Yeah. Some of the fellas and girls are wondering if you could move the cam closer to the 3D printer so you can see more detail.
Yeah, sure. Let's give it a shot. I might have to move the printer closer to the camera. How's that? Let me have a look. Move the camera down a bit. Yeah, it looks alright. Again, it's a very small, old camera, but it seems to work okay.
Okay, so 2-1. So Kat asks, what are your thoughts on the Tico? Who should we ask this one?
No, not in the Tico, not in this chat. So Tico, what can I say? They're a Kickstarter project they haven't delivered yet. A lot of you will know my thoughts on that. A Kickstarter project is a risk, it's a gamble, and they are delayed. They're supposedly shipping soon, but as far as I can tell, they haven't shipped. I haven't kept up on the news, but yeah, it is what it is. It's a Kickstarter project that's got delays.
Maybe you could print a camera mount next time.
Yeah. I am working on it. So I've got the, again, time. I've got this one, which is my new time-lapse camera. I printed this to hold it, but it sucks. So I need to design up a 1/4-inch thread to hold it. Then I can put it on the tripod. Again, with the millions of things I'm doing, it's just about finding the time to do it. Yeah, so it is actually pretty quiet. Duplicator's asking how loud it is. It's quieter than the original Wanhao i3, I think. It is actually quiet. I think the weight in the base is making it quieter. It's quite sturdy. It's not vibrating much. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, actually. I'm not sure what Coastal Labs is going on about. It is we because my minion is part of the business, so it is not just me. Other people assist on Makers Muse, so to say it's just me would be incorrect. Brandon's asking what stepper drivers they're using. I can't tell you. I would say they're the standard ones, in the easy drivers, the step sticks. But it does seem to be pretty quiet. It may be using micro stepping. Actually, it would be using micro stepping. I don't know what level though, but it seems to be pretty reliable.
What time-lapse camera are you using?
So I'm not using a time lapse at the moment. I'm using a very old webcam. A little bit. I said at the start of the stream, I've got 2 of these. Special thanks to Spike for sending me through one of these, which is a C920 webcam, amazing quality webcam. But when I plug them both in, the whole system just crashes, and I can't get any signal out of either. So I'm using the good camera for my face and an old Logitech Easy Fun Cool camera for this. So it's not a time lapse camera. It's just a very, very old webcam. But this is the 2K Turnigy Black. It's a GoPro clone, and it does time-lapse really well. And this is what I'm planning to use for my future videos when I do time-lapse of prints. But I need a mount for it. And again, that's another project I need to do. It's all about the time. So that's that. So I'll probably finish up in about 10 minutes. I've gone over time, which is not a problem, but I do need to go get some stuff done.
And I can't feel my body.
Yes, and my minion is getting sore. So Bojan's asking about the industrial design scene in Sydney. It's an interesting scene. With industrial design in any course, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So in terms of getting a job in Sydney, a lot of my friends just made their own companies and went from there. There is a few good companies like, what are they called? Like Blue Sky Design, they're the biggest. They'd be the biggest industrial design firm in Sydney. And then there's smaller ones as well, which I can't remember the names of, unfortunately. But a lot of them are sort of dotted around the city, usually the outer areas like Abercrombie Street. And sometimes they've moved out to Wetherill Park, so they've become more of manufacturing companies rather than just industrial design. But it's not huge. And like in any design job, it's difficult to get a job. But Sydney or Melbourne would be the place to go. Perth, there was nothing at all.
Devin asks, please show us the biggest object that you can print with the Trinus. Now, do you have an example of the biggest print?
No, I don't actually. So the biggest object you can print with the Trinus is 225 by 225 by 225 millimeters. That's its print volume. That's the biggest you could print. So you could print a cube that large, but yeah, I can't really show you an example of that. I don't have anything that large. I haven't used the Trinus that much because it must be printed either tethering or via Pango, which I don't really like. Yeah, that's probably my answer for that. Dropped my headphones. Yeah, cool. Seems to be working pretty well. Yeah, it is printing pretty slowly. It is their default OKG code, so they're going to make that pretty conservative, so it works pretty well. Oh, is it 120, 120, 100? Okay. Yeah, I can't quite remember the print volume of the Trinus. So Phil's correct. 120, 120, 100 through Pango. It probably could do a little bit larger, but they're probably limited, so it doesn't hit right to the edge. And as I've said, the TiVo is currently being assembled. It needs to be wired up, and I've already sunk about 10 hours into it. Cool.
Still seems to be some contention about the industrial design versus engineering debate.
Oh dear. Look, I didn't want to open a can of worms. There is no better career path. It's just what I wanted to do was better reflected in an industrial design degree. I hated maths. And if you do an engineering, you have to be good at maths. As simple as that. I struggled through 2-unit. I'm not good with that sort of thing. So I wouldn't have been able to survive an engineering degree at all. Even if when you get into the workplace, you don't really use that much maths from what I understand in that regard, I couldn't have done the degree. I would have failed. No doubt about it. Whereas in industrial design, it was all about working with clients, concepts, sketching, 3D modeling, manufacturing prototypes. I loved it. So that's the degree worked better for me. I'm not saying one or the other is better, by all means. Although you probably will get paid better as a civil engineer than any other degree at the moment, depending on where you are.
Danny says you work with human factors and ergonomics with industrial design.
Yes, ergonomics is a big one. And again, even engineers should look at ergonomics for layouts of spaces. But yeah, that's why 3D printing was so valuable to me. I could test the ergonomics of my designs before even committing to them. I could test different handles by printing out different shapes and seeing how it goes. That's why industrial design worked for me, definitely. I don't want to start a debate. It's, again, they're two separate fields. One more question, then we're going to polish off and get some lunch, I think.
Okay, so, gotcha. Anyone got some final questions to bang out?
Any last final questions, guys? It's been fun assembling the Wanhao i3 Duplicator Plus. I did not expect it to have that loose connection inside. That was pretty interesting, but there you go. Nothing is scripted here. It's all completely live, and you know, if that happened to you for your first 3D printer, you'd probably think it's dead. But yeah, stuff like this happens. Even to printers sent to me, like someone to review online, that happened. So they're not cherry-picked. Like, this is what happens to these machines. It's not always a positive experience, but it's working now, and now I can test it.
What is your dream job?
This is pretty much my dream job. I like to tinker with things. I would like someone... I'm trying to find like a sort of protege, I guess, like a young kid to sort of take under my wing and be like, here's some 3D printers, go nuts, and get them to play with them and test them, because that way it frees up time for me to do more of the business side of this. But yeah, I mean, 3D printing on Makers Muse is great fun. I enjoy doing it. I do it every day. A lot of people don't realize how much effort goes into videos. The Be the First video, probably about a month worth of testing on and off, and then 2 entire days worth of editing and filming to make that 1 10-minute video with all the B-roll. That's what it is, but I love doing it, and I'm not very good at some of the shots, but I'm learning, and this is what I like to do. It's pretty ironic that I was like the shyest kid in my class, and now I am doing a live stream to all of you guys, which is that's pretty funny.
Do you think that the Trinus is a good printer, though, all in caps?
Do I think the Trinus is a good printer, all in caps? Yes, the Trinus is a good printer. It's another Kickstarter project, so again, if you didn't get into the project, if you didn't get into the campaign, you're going to be waiting a long time before it ships. But it's a good machine. It's pretty rigid. It's just another 3D printer. There's so many on the market that print well. The Trinus has a really rigid design, but it's not going to print as fast as other machines using belts. It's always a trade-off. If anyone read my ebook, it's this versus that, trade-offs. This speed versus cost, or cost versus reliability, or all these things. You can't have all of them. You always have to do trade-offs. So, yes, it's a good machine for what it does. It's not going to print very fast, but it's super rigid. So there we go. Cool. Well, I think that's going to be it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a lot of fun and slightly chaotic, as always, getting this thing to work. But it is working, and now I can do a proper review on it. And I need to say thank you so much to all of you who support me through Patreon, because as always, you are providing the funds to pay for this, which is 4G internet, which is the only way I'm able to stream from where I am in Australia. There is no connection to here or anywhere that I currently work at or live at that can allow me to stream, give me enough speed to stream. I need to use 4G internet, and it costs a fortune, and I can only pay for it through your support on Patreon. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, I'm going to go have some lunch. It's a nice, actually quite a nice Sunday. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you again very shortly here on Makers Muse. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you later.